I try to be very disarming in my approach with people. I mean, I think often that comes with like, oh man, how much is it going to cost me to talk to this person, right? It's not always cheap, but it's always a good conversation.
Yeah.
It's always, I don't believe in charging if I haven't provided value. So my first way people get access to me is I offer a free 15-minute phone call. Let's just get an idea
It's awesome.
of what you're doing. If this problem that you felt you may have, if I'm the right person to solve that, or if, often I'll redirect them to, maybe they're looking for a different attorney.
A lot of folks wouldn't find themselves with access to ask an attorney a question, right? They wouldn't necessarily know what to do. Hey friends, welcome to More Than a Mortgage. The entire purpose of this podcast is we want to provide you value before, during, and long after your loan transaction closes. So we're going to provide you amazing service during that time period, but we also want to help you, like I said, before and after. One of the ways that we do that is by having guests on here that we think would be a tremendous value for you. We put this podcast together, not necessarily for the audience, although if an audience happens and people end up watching this and are blessed by it and there's value there, then fantastic. But the primary focus of this really is to provide honor and to provide a piece of value for the guest, right? So Jordan is our guest today, and we think the world of Jordan and his business. And so we want to have him on here to highlight who Jordan is, what his business is, provide him some value so that he is better introduced to his own sphere of influence, as well as it gives us an opportunity to introduce him to our sphere of influence. So yes, if this podcast accidentally ends up with an audience, fantastic. But primarily what we're trying to do is bring honor and value to Jordan and to his audience and mine. Jordan, thanks so much for being here. I'm really honored that you'd take the time out of your schedule to come meet with us. As I was kind of saying a couple minutes ago, and that's part of the fun of this, we get to have a conversation before the recording starts, right? And then of course we'll have conversations after, and ideally we produce something that maybe somebody listens.
Somebody finds
your wife will love it. Maybe
I
mine
don't know
will.
about that.
I don't know. At least they'll feel obligated to listen or watch. But the whole point of this, and I just have to give credit to where the idea came from, was Craig. But the whole point of this is to provide value to a partner of mine, right? So a one-to-one classically would be, hey, let's go have coffee or let's go have lunch. And that's probably fun, right? And we probably have some organic conversation and we probably enjoy each other's time. That's maybe not every conversation leads to business, right? But rather than just a coffee date, the idea was, shoot, why don't you invite somebody into the studio? In your case, maybe you've got a little bit of skill set or history doing this, but a lot of folks will have never been in front of a camera before or sat with a microphone to their face. And it will be kind of like a, whoa, this is kind of cool type of, basically kind of an honoring value add for a partner, right? So the whole point of this is that we could highlight who you are and just the quality of service that you provide, get to know you a little bit more. The whole point here would be that we could introduce you better to your followers and the people that already like you, and help you build more of a following of people that know, like, and trust you. And then at the same time for me, if we have great guests on, then I'm going to introduce you to my followers, right? So if we ever build much of a following on this podcast, then so be it. But really what we're trying to do is just produce a nice piece of content that's honoring to you and value added for you, and that we come out of here better knowing each other's businesses and better able to help each other win. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, and I appreciate the opportunity.
Yeah.
I think suggesting that I have followers is a bit generous, but
well, tell me
maybe sometime in the future.
That's a fun way to start. Why don't you just tell our huge audience here how you and I got connected in the first place?
Oh yeah, that is kind of funny. When I first kind of opened my own doors and thought, we need some social media account presence, and my wife's done social media for several years and is pretty good at it. So she started setting up my accounts, my Instagram, and was managing it in the background because I'm no good at it, right? But she's consistent. She takes great pictures. She would film some things. And I can't remember how we initially, something happened to where I think if another realtor tagged you or in something that I had, or that my wife had posted on my behalf. And then there was this back and forth behind the scenes comments or messaging happening where turns out it was not you messaging me or me messaging you, but it was rather my wife messaging Amy, who was managing your social media, which is great. Let people do what they're great at, right? And social media is not necessarily what I'm great at.
Yeah, I thought it was so funny that we had this behind the scenes DM connection that neither of us were a part of, but both of our handles on Instagram were deep into relationship at this point, which was really, really awesome and hilarious at the same time. Yeah,
so
my
when
story
we showed
was the
up
same.
for that coffee date,
Yeah,
we hadn't actually talked together yet.
correct. It was like we should have picked up from where we left off, but we'd never started. So two fun things about that. One quick plug to folks that might be listening that know that they need to do something that they may not feel like they're very good at. Well, find a person, I think would be a good piece of advice there. You had a person in your wife and I have a person in Amy, and awesome that was happening and led to this. So I said another plug too, but now I'm kind of forgetting maybe what that was, but maybe it's hey, and maybe this is just restating it, but if social media is something you believe you should be doing, whoever might be listening, right, but you're not good at it or you don't love it, that's okay. There's tons of great coaching out there that I will point you to and say, that's all right. You need to spend your time in the desire zone quadrant of what your highest and best use is, rather than trying to force it into areas of your business that might be essential, but may not be super fun for you. Does that make sense?
I'd add one more plug.
Yeah.
That eventually take the relationship off social media and get together in real life, go grab that coffee date. I think that's where some people tend to stop, especially in my industry, right? I don't see a lot of attorneys going out and networking, and that's just a function of time. But, and I'm sure we'll get into a conversation about time. But in my mind, that highest and best use of my time is often building relationships with other professionals out there.
100% agree. Yep. I don't know a lot of attorneys, so maybe this is a good place to start, but you're the least stuffy, most approachable, fantastic attorney I've ever met. So
yeah, I was going to say qualify with that you've ever met.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. But I think, you probably don't want to have this. You probably don't want to speak to this stigma that may exist, but I think there's an intimidation factor by consumers when it comes to meeting with an attorney, right?
Yeah, probably.
How do you uphold that intimidation factor in your business?
How do I uphold it?
Yeah.
Well, I try to run away from it. I try to be very disarming, right, in my approach with people. But I think often that comes with like the oh man, how much is it going to cost me to talk to this person, right? Which is a hard barrier to get over for sure. It's not always cheap, but it's always a good conversation.
Yeah.
it's always, I don't believe in charging if I haven't provided value. So, I'm still at the point in my business where I'm offering first kind of consultations for free to try and get people at least through the door to have a conversation and see what they need, but try to be very authentic. And I guess I don't want to work with people who view me as stuffy or anything other than who I really am. Right. And if I'm not the right person for you, so be it. And there's someone else that probably would be a better fit.
It's awesome. Well, before we get much more into the work side of things, maybe tell us a little bit about your family and some of the other significant things in your life that are more of your why behind what you do.
How deep into the why are we going?
Hey, we got an hour, so and we got an editor.
Okay.
So
okay, all right. Well, yeah, my journey's not super traditional. I grew up in southern Utah, single parent family growing up. Always have been kind of a numbers guy, very much into financial planning, kind of personal finance, from a very young age. And that's super nerdy. But
So how young?
So I think, have you ever read the book Richest Man in Babylon?
Yeah. Actually read that within the last year.
Really?
Yeah.
Did I suggest this book to you? Or
No.
So I've read that book every year since I was about 13 years old.
That's pretty young.
Once a year.
For that book.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think it's an approachable book. I recommend that book to everyone.
Yeah.
Right? So, from a very young age. And the reason, I came across it is that book was my dad's financial Bible, is what he had referred to it as. And my dad died when I was very young, 7 years old. And I think I was probably searching for a way to connect, and kind
Sure.
of. So his background was in finance, and I was a numbers kind of guy in investing. And so naturally I was kind of drawn to trying to find that connection, I think, probably.
Yeah.
So, I started on this why journey very young. So that's I kind of went into college looking at, hey, I want to be, actually, no, I deviated. At first I thought I wanted to be an engineer, realized, oh my goodness, I'm not as good at math as I thought I was.
Okay.
So,
I was going to ask you if you were a mathlete.
My C+ in algebra, my first year in college, told me that probably engineering wasn't going to be it.
Yeah.
So like many other engineers or like engineering students, I became a business major and kind of
guilty.
Guilty.
I wasn't an engineering person, but I knew better than to go down that route.
You knew you were more self-aware than I was.
What's weird is, I don't want to make this about me, but I did it extremely well in calculus in college.
Well, I thought I did extremely well in calculus in high school. And then when I decided to retake it in college, I didn't feel like I had a great understanding. Just couldn't grasp it.
Yeah. At that point, don't force something that doesn't come easily, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Find what your strengths are and focus on your strengths.
Exactly.
So anyway, I pivoted more to business and jumped into accounting specifically with a minor in financial planning. And I went to school at Utah State. And Utah State has this...
Go Aggies, right?
Go Aggies. Yeah. Has a great accounting as well as financial planning program with one particular kind of professor that's over the whole personal financial planning program. And so he and I ended up taking, his name's Vance Grange, by the way, for anyone that may know him. Great guy in
maybe
Logan,
he's listening.
Utah. He's not listening. But I actually gave him a copy. He doesn't realize this, probably doesn't realize this. He has my dad's original copy of The Richest Man in Babylon.
Nice.
I never got it back from him on accident. It's fine. Maybe he's given it to another student.
Maybe. I think part of the most fun of this podcast is we get to reminisce about stuff. So Keep it up.
Great guy. I had taken like 4 or 5 classes from him at this point, and he was kind of my mentor. And he was a financial planner in the community, so more like an adjunct professor.
Yeah.
And he said, if I could go back, I would keep going on to law school and go down that route. And so he encouraged me to try that. Also, my wife had said, hey, I can't picture you being an accountant for the rest of your life or a financial planner. We didn't really discuss financial planning, but the idea of, I might not have been self-aware enough to realize that, but I would not have enjoyed.
So quick interjection. Then you mentioned Whitney, who's your wife. And so this tells me that you were already in a relationship or already married to her.
Yeah.
Before you made this.
Oh yeah. Married very young. I think I was 22 when we got married. And we went to Utah State together. So yeah, she's pivotal as well in my decision to keep going, see what else was out there. So we made the leap, applied for a few law schools.
So was that immediately upon like finishing your undergrad?
Straight from undergrad, straight to law school.
So never went into a career of accounting or financial.
I worked as an accountant during, as a managerial accountant, not as like obviously not as a CPA, but not as like a tax or audit accountant, but for a small company that was up in Logan, which is fun. I love working in the operations, and I want to say, make a distinction there between like, I like working in the business side of things rather than say on an accounting firm that works from the outside and just is more of compliance of that business. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So you like to be a part of the business rather than coming in and make sure that the numbers are where they should be.
Exactly.
From a consulting standpoint.
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did actually enjoy that quite a bit. But took the leap, applied for several law schools. We settled on University of Nevada in Las Vegas, UNLV. And a huge driver of that decision was that we went and looked at law schools during spring break. Spring break in Logan, Utah in whatever this is, 2010.
Snow.
There's 4 feet of snow on the ground.
Yeah.
So we go down to Vegas, and I'm from southern Utah, from St. George, which is like 100 miles from Vegas.
Very similar weather.
Very similar. Grass is growing when we're down there. The campus is beautiful. Like this is it. This is where we've got to come. We've got to get out of the snow. And it helps that we had hoped to go back to southern Utah and kind of plant roots there. And that's the closest law school to St. George. So we decided on UNLV, went there. We actually did move back to St. George during the end of my second year of law school, and I just commuted to school and worked at a law firm for the last 2 years of school. So it was pretty convenient.
How many days a week into UNLV?
Just 2. Yeah, loaded all my classes onto 2 days a week for that last year and a half, and was able to commute, which is great because I was able to work and help kind of defray some of the costs there.
Random trivia for our audience, for those who haven't driven between St. George and Vegas.
I can do it with my eyes.
I know. It's kind of fun. You actually drive through a different state. When you leave Utah,
Yes.
You don't drive directly into Nevada. And hopefully folks with a basic understanding of geography would guess what state that is, but it's kind of weird.
It is weird. And it is dangerous because it's a speed trap it's a DUI trap. So when I started practicing in when I moved back to Utah after and graduated, there are very few attorneys. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but you're driving through Arizona to get to
you just gave away hopefully all the audience figured out the trivia question.
You only had like 10 seconds to figure that one out.
Arizona.
So you're driving through Arizona, and it's, there's 2 options. There's like you can go all the way to Mesquite, if you're going to go to a bar, but your options in St. George, Utah are limited in going to a bar. So people would drive to either Mesquite or, what's it called? It's something like the Beaver Dam, Arizona is where you drive through, right? So it's like the Beaver Dam Lodge, I think is the name of the bar. Something quirky, right? So it's a huge DUI trap, but there's not a community north of the Grand Canyon large enough to support an attorney having an office, right? So there's huge divide and huge need for attorneys north of the Grand Canyon in this. I said huge. It's not huge. The population is small, but
there's opportunity
for people driving through and all of a sudden get this huge fine and charge because Arizona has really steep DUI charges. You've got very limited options for DUI representation, which is not my specialty,
right?
But is so unique because you're actually driving down to. I mean, when I'd have to go to court, I did a couple of these, and I don't want to say, I'm defending drunk drivers. These were both very unique cases where neither of them were impaired, but unfortunately, they had
to go through the process.
And the courts are down in like Colorado City. If you're familiar with Colorado City, Arizona, it's this small podunk, like very out in the middle of nowhere. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful country. Probably the most beautiful country I've I mean, desert country that I've been through. And, but the courthouse is like almost a trailer. You're going, it's like some of the court administration building is a trailer that you go to. So anyway, there's a random thought that sent me down a tangent, but it was a fun couple of years practicing down there.
It's a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. We love to visit St. George personally. I've got a
I saw that
Zion sticker on my water bottle here. It's one of my favorite places to go.
It's embarrassing for me to say that growing up there, I've probably only been to Zion like 3 times in my life.
It's better than most.
That's better than most, but it's like 45-minute drive.
Yeah. I've been there twice.
Oh, I see you've almost beat me.
Twice in the last 5 years, actually.
I think I was being generous even saying 3 times.
Yeah. We love Zion. The St. George area is awesome. If we ever were to move away from Boise, which I don't think it'll ever happen, who knows? St. George would be on our short list.
It's obviously on our short list too, but we moved up here. So, I mean, I'm skipping over a lot, but we moved up here 8 years ago, and with the idea that we were going to be here for 2 years, and we just love it up here. So we've put down roots.
This dang place, I joke all the time that you visit with any bit of an open mind at all, and kind of the hooks get set quick and deep.
Yeah.
You just can't get here fast enough.
It's dangerous.
It is. Well, it's funny. We moved to Boise 8 years ago, but tell me more about your move to Boise.
Nice.
What brought you up here?
So, I was practicing for a couple of years down in St. George, and my brother-in-law was working for he was working for a healthcare company that got bought out by a company that is headquartered here in Eagle, or not here in Eagle, but in Eagle.
Which is just here in the Treasure Valley, right?
In the Treasure Valley.
Yeah.
So he recruited me over and said, "Hey, we've got a position on not even just a position on our legal team." He said, "Hey, the conversation was interesting because I've talked to sort of the founders of the company, and they said when they were really getting started, they are also the founders of the company, kind of founders, are, I want to say they're brother-in-laws, same kind of situation.
Okay.
So they're brother-in-laws, and they both happen to be attorneys, but one kind of manages the operation side, and one kind of manages the admin back functions. It used to be this case anyway when they got started. So they said, "Hey, my brother-in-law's name's Andy. So Andy, we want you to start this new division where you're going to go and we're going to add home care companies to our suite of services or of companies that we service. Primarily, they've been in the home health, hospice arenas at that point. We want to add home care. You're an expert in home care, but we want you to go find that person who's going to be your number 2 to kind of build out your support team. So we suggest you look for either an attorney or an accountant." I said, "Well, that's great. My brother-in-law's an attorney and an accountant."
Is this brothers-in-law theme going on here?
Yeah. So there's just brother. And so they're like, "Oh, that resonates."
Yeah.
So he pitched me on the idea. At this point, I wasn't loving law either. Because, and it wasn't that I didn't love law, but as a young attorney starting out, you are like stuck in an office, right? You're not meeting with clients. You're not going to court too often. You're not getting that TV dramatization experience, right?
It's not what it's cracked up
No,
to
it's
be.
like 10 hours in front of a computer every day, just you in your office. And like, I'm a fairly extroverted person. So I told people it's like working in a library here. And like, I was getting fairly depressed about it. So the opportunity to go and work on a team, both with my brother-in-law, but also as part of the legal team where you are more collaborative in the, like I said, I like to be in kind of the nuts and bolts of the business side of things. Like there was a lot of things appealing about that. So we came up, I interviewed with the team and they made an offer, and it's always hard going in-house because you kind of take a pay cut with what you could do on the outside with a private firm, right? But it was probably, it was a pivotal career move for sure. But also, until starting my own thing, I would have said that's the most satisfying job that I've had.
That's great.
Right? Because of all the things that I've said, you're in supporting the business functions, very collaborative with the other attorneys and staff, and just a fun environment to be in. So did that for a little bit. But I am a very financially motivated guy, economically motivated guy. And the upside of staying in-house on that legal team just wasn't enough, or it wasn't the 10X vision that I had for my life.
Another great book.
So
that's good.
I made the switch, and I ended up operating I switched over to the operations side, which has more of an uncapped sort of compensation structure, and ended up running a Medicaid-based home care company that's down in Boise, or here in Boise, which I don't know what version of pie in the sky I was seeing, but a Medicaid-based business is probably not that 10X vision either. But that was fun, a different experience. I did that for like 4 years. And I'm just rattling off here, but I'll just keep going here to get to where I am today, because I'm still 4 years away from the story. Yeah. So I did that for 4 years, and still that sort of underlying economic driver, economic motivation, I wasn't where I wanted to be.
So you moved to Boise about 8 years ago. You take a job in corporate counsel, the brothers-in-law firm.
Yeah.
Not really. That leads into another opportunity.
Yeah. Yep.
That lasted for 4 years.
Yep.
And then somehow we get to where we are today.
Almost.
Just I'm not rushing you. Keep it up.
Yeah. Somehow how we get to today. So back when I was in St. George practicing law, in my library of a practice, I was an experience I always share that, it's tough as a young associate when you're working on a case, and the compensation structure of the firm that I was at was interesting. It was 50% of whatever you collect, not necessarily what you bill, but what you collect.
Okay.
Or rather, what the firm collects on your behalf, because I'm an associate. I don't have any control over what they collect, what the firm collects. So as you're going through the end of a case, you're reconciling. The situation was this: I'm sitting across the table from a partner on a particular case, and we're just going through all the time entries and just line by line striking off my time entries that he's like, client's not going to pay for this. Client's not going to pay for this. And when you're in a firm, you're in a compensation structure where it's like, I get 50% of what you collect. That's like, is there going to be enough to pay my family, or like to feed my family? I've got 2 young kids at this point.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, to clarify, because I don't necessarily understand this, but I'm intrigued. The client isn't going to pay for this, meaning they wouldn't be able to effectively collect, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Unlikely the client will pay for
Unlikely the client. So let's strike it off, show them that we're giving them a discount type thing.
Got it.
So that was tough. And so I started dreaming up this vision of like, hey, I know a bunch of students back at UNLV that would do some of this low-level work for me for a flat fee for the experience, right?
Yeah.
Getting the experience. And then I'm sort of hedging my own time, saying I'm going to work on other stuff while letting some students do some of the low-level work. So I started dreaming of this way to accomplish that. A platform where students or where attorneys could outsource basic level legal work to law students. Did I say that right? Attorneys could outsource to law students. And that's where the idea of my later company, Law Student Connect, was born.
Oh.
And I put it on the shelf at that point. And that the time frame is like, I started laying the groundwork for building that in 2014 and moved up here and took the other job for the in-house team in 2015. So that the in-house job kind of scratched my entrepreneurial itch for a while, and I just set that on the shelf.
Yeah.
So I set Law Student Connect on the shelf. But once again, getting into, moving up here, getting back into that Medicaid business where I'm seeing, there's just not a lot of opportunity here. That itch started to happen again. The itch started to come up again. So I pitched the idea. This is now, 2018. There was an attorney in my neighborhood who I'd become pretty good friends with. And I pitched him on the idea, and he chewed on it for a couple of days and came back to me and said, I think this is bigger than you thought it could be. Let's do this. So come April 2019, we both quit our jobs and jumped into it full time to try and get it off the ground. And I found an investor here in the Valley and went for it. And then a lot of things started happening. The economy kind of crashes during that time. We built a great app. I'll say this. We built a great app. We did it for a lot cheaper than most people can do that for. The economy kind of tanked. So we lost our investment. We lost our commitment for further investment.
Okay.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
And so we're kind of like, okay, well, this is what we've got. Let's see how far we can take this.
And your customer, for clarity, was other attorneys.
Yeah.
Okay. Helping them figure out how to outsource lower level
Yeah. So the model was that, hey, an attorney can jump on, post a project, and we'll connect them with a law student, and we'll take 10 to 20% of that project. Now, what we learned is that attorneys aren't super willing to pay too much for law student work, right?
So your 10 or 20% became
like $1 or $2.
peanuts.
Yeah, per hour type thing, right? So what's my takeaway? I mean, there's a lot of takeaways. I learned a ton, and we did that. We gave that the old college try for like 3-4 years.
You see what you did there, college try.
Yeah, it was a rough going. We did get some good work, got some great students, got some good attorneys posting projects, but at the size of those projects, you need a lot. Maybe that wasn't the right model.
You needed more volume.
You need a lot of volume.
Yeah.
So it's the high volume play. And I still think it's a valuable idea. But at the same time, kind of came to the realization some problems are too small to solve. Is that fair?
Yeah, totally fair. One of the questions that comes to my mind, and I don't know if other consumers would ask this too, when you guys would delegate to a law student, it must have been something that didn't require them to have finished law school at that point in time, or passed the bar, or however that works.
Right. So a lot of research type tasks, actually a lot of content production, blog articles. Attorneys were recognizing, hey, we should have a blog, but we shouldn't be the ones spending time to write these.
So this is before AI, of course. Then.
Yeah. So AI probably would have killed this too, right? To where I can jump on and have, ChatGPT write up an article for me in no time.
Right.
That would have severely limited the benefit here. So maybe it was inevitable. Who knows?
Well, I think it's a good conclusion that maybe the problem was too small
to solve. Yeah.
It just maybe there wasn't enough scale opportunity there. If it's a volume play, then obviously you got to have volume.
Yeah. And it was interesting too. The other surprise was we would get students to sign up pretty regularly. Sometimes I'd have 10 students sign up a day just from posting on LinkedIn. And so they were hungry for it. But when it came time to actually apply for a project, there was such a fear to take that next step and put yourself out there, because you are the other aspect of the platform was that the attorneys were going to rate your work, and that was
So you're
going to
kind of auditioning for a future job potentially.
You're auditioning for a future job. You are creating this profile that has ratings and reviews that is also somewhat public with some amount of control. So there was a fear about sort of stepping in and jumping into a project to where really that the 80-20 principle plays out. Only like 20%. It's actually less. I'd say like 10 to 15% of the students would actually take that next step and apply for a project.
Yeah, I mean, that was probably just the inevitability of the stage of life that these students were in, right? And just the vulnerability of, you know, or were they bold enough or comfortable enough in their own skill set at that point to be able to actually provide the value that was being asked for?
Definitely. And I also, I mean, I think my history shows that I'm not terribly risk averse. Jump in and pivot, and so I guess I probably projected that onto others too greatly to think that, oh, there's going to be some students out here that are willing to dive in and take a risk, and not as many as I'd hoped. But
well, I mean, if you've got an idea that you pitch somebody that believes that this could be a thing, like, I think it is your flag to bear a bit, right? I mean, it is, if it's your idea and you've pitched it successfully and you're taking it to market, then I think it certainly would be appropriate that you had to be the hype man for it, right? And then turns out maybe the students just.
Well, I think I've probably put too much blame on the students and economy. We could have done better. Okay, I don't want to say, hey, this was all someone else's fault. I think the biggest downfall here is, this idea was just too small, right?
Yeah, I mean, kudos for trying it though.
Yeah, it was fun.
You quit your job, whatever job that was at the time. Was that the Medicaid position, or was that the okay? Yeah, I mean, awesome risk taking there. That's cool.
So that fills in that 4-year gap, other than one.
So how long did the was it Law Student Connect? What was it called?
Law Student Connect.
Law Student. How long did Law Student Connect last? How long was it your full-time
Actually,
gig?
so like so from 2019, and I think February 2023. Yeah, February 2023.
So.
Yeah. So I ended up, we decided to shut it down. I joined a similar company that instead of working with law students and solo and small firm attorneys, they work with Fortune 500 companies and find solo attorneys to outsource work to.
Okay.
So you would be surprised at how many big companies outsource work to attorneys outside of their team.
I believe it, actually. So I used to work for a little tiny company called Microsoft.
Yeah.
And they employed an enormous amount of attorneys. I don't want to necessarily guess how many attorneys Microsoft has on staff, what in their corporate counsel or in-house counsel, but they do. And frequently I found myself working with what they call the outside counsel.
Yeah.
Very, very common.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So that was the play for them, is to find these similar model. Almost, I mean, I got into that company and saw their app and I'm like, we built this for $200,000 versus the $22 million in funding that this company had to build this. And I was like, that made me very proud, right?
Yeah.
Very similar in the way that it was structured. It was same kind of percentage of project type thing, or percentage of hourly billings or whatever. So I wanted to test myself and see if I could. I've always been interested in sales. So that was a sales. I joined that company on the sales team, and wasn't great. had a couple wins, but wasn't great. Quickly just wanted to get back into the nuts and bolts of things and say, hey, I'm more suited to sort of help set up the systems behind here And so I learned that this position's is called like a sales operations. And so I wrote up a job description. I said, hey, I think we need this. This is where I think my skill set lines. I think I could do well at this. And so I pitched that to him, and about 6 or 7 months into the job, and they agreed to let me have a go at it. And that was fun for 4 months. and then I kind of got, in April I got laid off from that position, and I wasn't sad about it.
Oh, okay. Fair enough.
So that's now bringing us to April 2024. In November of 2023, I'm again getting that entrepreneurial itch. I'm like, this still isn't going to get me to where I want to be. So I had spent enough time away from the law that I wanted to get back into law. So November 2023, I started laying down. I got my business name, set up an LLC, started to do got my licenses reactivated, which is a process. My law license is reactivated because it'd been so long.
So you were working for a company that was selling legal services, but you were not practicing.
I didn't have an active license.
Got it.
I just kept everything on inactive status.
But if we're counting, you made 2 successful pitches that were both received well.
Which ones?
Well, the first one was the pitch to your neighbor.
Sure. Yeah.
Hey, let's start this gig. And he loved it. And then the second one was a pitch to the company you were working for, which didn't end up being a very long-term thing. But
I mean, we also pitched to an investor and got a pretty significant investment. So
maybe you're more of a pitch man than you think.
Don't go too crazy with that. Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So you went from a sales position, and prior to that, trying to recall your customers in the entrepreneurial gig that you were working on, Law Student Connect, were lawyers, right? So you were more of a B2B, business to business focus.
That was tough. It was a 2-sided marketplace, right? So B2B as well as B2C, being law students.
Sure.
Right.
A middleman, right? You were selling a service to another business person, and then, yeah.
And then trying to get enough students to join to be able to support the work, right? So it was a lot of social media at that time, LinkedIn all the time. I spent a good number of years on LinkedIn. And since leaving that position, I've probably posted 1 time on LinkedIn because it just burnt me out. And I want to get back to it, but it just is overwhelming to get back into it.
And knowing your story just a little bit, you went from B2C with a hybrid of B2B with a little bit of a hybrid of B2C in there, right? It's for those of us that don't, business to business versus business to consumer. And now tell me about the pivot into your current role, which is certainly much more of a B2C, right? Business to consumer.
Yeah.
And your company name is?
Gardner Law. Yeah. So November 2024 November 2023 started kind of moonlighting doing Gardner Law, which is a estate planning law firm. Only estate. That goes too far. Estate planning, probably 90%. I'll occasionally do business formations and not obviously, but estate planning kind of goes hand in hand on the probate side.
Every good business has a competitive advantage and more of a narrow focus, right?
Yeah, it's when I step outside of that focus that I lose that advantage for sure.
Yeah. Do you remember when Starbucks started to make breakfast sandwiches, 15 years ago?
No, I don't.
As a coffee connoisseur, it drove me crazy when I no longer could smell the good aroma of coffee, and all I would smell was the stinky cheese of a breakfast sandwich. I'm like, what are we doing here? And there was a CEO pivot at the time, and anyway, I use this story all the time. Amy's probably heard it. She's laughing in the background right now, but but when Starbucks finally came back around and said, "Wait a second, we're a coffee shop.
Let's focus.
We're going to do coffee really well, and sure, we can sell some ancillary things, right?" But when a business can focus on what they feel like their competitive advantage is, and yes, maybe they have a couple of ancillary things that they're going to do, I think that's when the focus is appropriate and you can actually go get it and get after it. So,
have you read Good to Great?
I don't think I have.
It's almost standard reading at this point for
Good to Great.
Good to Great.
I'm just going to
Jim
add
Collins.
it to my list right now.
Maybe add it.
Well, I'll at least put it on my wish list, and then that's where I keep my book recommendations.
Yeah.
Good to Great.
Good to Great. What you're referring to is often coined as, from that book, the hedgehog principle.
Okay.
Right? The hedgehog.
Tell me more.
Yeah. The comparison is between a hedgehog and a fox. The wily fox that's, uses a lot of different tricks to accomplish his goals versus the hedgehog who's only good at one thing, rolling up into a spiky ball. But he does it extraordinarily well to where, and it's been, I had 10 years since I've read this book, but I think I'm getting it right. Only rolls up into a spiky ball, but the fox can't get to him, right? If he does that. He does that extraordinarily well. The point is focus on one thing and do it very, very well.
Love that.
Love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look up the hedgehog principle.
You just added a phenomenal reference for our listeners to go, you validated what I said. Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
No, it's a good thought. So yes, my hedgehog principle is estate planning. My hedgehog focus should be estate planning. And I only deviate from that occasionally. So primarily I'm wills, trusts, end of life and incapacity documents. Kind of get that kind of planning put in place to where you can have peace of mind.
One of the things you do so well, we're in a B&I chapter together for those that may not know that, but that means every single week you get a 60-second opportunity to kind of share a plug of why should somebody work with you, or why should our B&I partners market you to their network or their sphere. You often tell really cool little short stories about the importance.
I'm running out of them.
You're running out of them? Well, the cool thing is you've never told any of them here. So
yeah, there you go.
Putting you on the spot just a little bit, but if you had a quick story as to what is the importance of a consumer building a relationship with you to have you help them establish a trust and get that funded is a word that I've learned from you.
Yeah.
But yeah, tell me a little bit about that.
I'll pick an interesting one. Interesting to me. I like the ones that are harder, right? It's interesting. It's more challenging, mentally stimulating. And it's validating for the process, right? Validating for why we do. But I'm working on a probate case at the moment. So probate is when we haven't done our planning and it needs to go through the court system.
It's kind of like a swear word, right? Nobody likes that word.
Nobody likes the word. It's, at least in Idaho, it's not as much of a swear word because we do have a really good process and cost-effective way of doing things, but it's still a process and it's still a headache. So, situation is that this gentleman died, single at the time, divorced, 2 kids, who lived with his ex-spouse, and he had a business, properly set up LLC, bank accounts in the name of the LLC. So when he dies, he doesn't have a spouse that steps up and takes care of this. He has an ex-spouse that she went over and above and, took care of the funeral arrangements, and he didn't have any family around or anything, right? The challenge is that he does have some assets, but they're in a business that nobody has the authority to manage or get. So when she goes to the bank to get access to these funds to help pay for these things or to give to her daughters, this man's daughters, she can't make that happen. So it's now been, 5 months, 6 months, and charges have continually gone out of that account for the last 6 months, despite him being deceased.
Like automatic
withdrawals. Charges that he had set up, right?
Yeah.
Payments, insurance payments, things that even the providers of those, services won't shut off because there's no person in place.
Directive to shut them off.
Yeah. How did you can't blame them. That's just the process, and they've got their own policies and whatever. So, she's come to me saying, is there even any point to doing anything here? Because, he has debts. Are those all going to eat up the assets here? Is anything going to be there to help for her, pay for my kids' college, I think. So
yeah,
that's all very challenging. There's a lot to work through there, right? Somebody has to be appointed in this. We have to open an estate and set her up as the personal representative if the court approves her, because she's an ex-spouse, right? What's her claim to be in that position? But she's the only one willing to come forward and say, I'll do this. So there's a challenge there. But then we've got to get her in a position where she can be, as that personal representative, be the one that can manage we've got to get the bank comfortable enough that she has the authority to manage that LLC to get access to the funds and shut down that LLC and those other things. And then there is, as it turns out, there will be a way for her to get, despite there being debts, for her to get some of that money for her daughters to go to school. But it's all we're now at 5 months since the gentleman died, and we're probably, we're going to have to, she's just come to me in the last couple of weeks. We're going to have to open up a creditors period and let that run for 4 months. And then, we're probably still 5 or 6 months from when we'll be able to wrap this up. So what could have been the solution?
You couldn't have asked a better question. I was going to ask it, but you asked it.
Yeah. Go ahead, ask it, Gavin.
Yeah, I was just going to say, what would have happened if there would have been appropriate planning on the front end?
So the appropriate planning would have been a trust that LLC was owned through, right? What a trust does is provides a success. I tell people this, that a trust is an agreement with yourself to manage the trust funds, the trust assets, for the benefit of yourself or your descendants. But what makes it unique is that it's got a built-in succession plan, a built-in management succession plan. So, while you're alive, you are the trustee and can manage that trust however you want.
Right.
But if something happens to you, you've already named, hey, who's going to be the backup trustee? And so there's no gap in management. Does that make sense?
It does. Makes perfect sense. I always say, and you can correct me if I'm maybe overly simplifying, but I think of it as an entity that lives beyond the person's life, that can continue to execute their will or desire or whatever that plan was.
Yeah. And I use that analogy a lot to compare it to like an LLC.
Yeah.
A trust is not actually a separate entity. That's why I say think about it similarly to an LLC, but it's actually more of just an agreement. It's more of a contract with yourself, which is interesting to think about. But when you die, or if it's a married couple, when both trustors die, then it does become its own sort of entity.
Okay.
So
got it.
That was overly technical, but it's a good analogy. And I use the same analogy to say, think about it like it's an entity that can live on, because the goal of probate is to retitle assets to where they need to be, right?
Right.
So if we've already retitled them in an entity that's going to, or an agreement, a trust that's going to live beyond our lives, there's no change necessary.
There's no change in
there's no necessity to change that title.
Right.
Right. Those assets can just be given out according to the agreement.
Because there is trustees in place according to the agreement, and those trustees are alive until they're not, and then there's a succession plan.
Or there's named successor trustees, these backups, or a process that's identified as to, hey, if there are no trustees in place, this is how we're going to select the next trustee.
Got it.
So that there will always be someone that can do it. So the proper planning here would have been have a trust, have that business owned by the trust, and have that trust, have the trustee have that authority to manage the business, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And that sounds like a lot, but that's not overly complicated to get set up.
And I think it's important for consumers to have at least an operating understanding of what, you're proposing that they do. But at the same point in time, it's why somebody would work with an expert, right? They don't necessarily have to be, if they could do it themselves, they wouldn't need you, right? What's a good warm welcome or warm invitation from you to somebody who's like, ooh, I heard what you said. I should probably do something about it, but I'm a little scared to get started, or I don't know where to get started, or maybe it's going to be too expensive, or, all the yeah buts that your mind always says, because you just told a great story that probably tugged on some heartstrings of some people that are like, ooh, yeah, that could have been dealt with a little better. Now, you also did a really nice job of plugging Idaho probate, which of course you want to avoid probate as much as possible. If that would have been a different state, it could have been far worse, right?
Yeah, probably would have been far worse. Yeah. So in my process with someone who finds me, if it's just a cold sort of lead, somebody hears this and they're like, oh, that's interesting. That sounds similar, but I'm not sure. My first way people get access to me is I offer a free 15-minute phone call. Let's just get an idea of what you're doing. If this problem that you felt you may have, if I'm the right person to solve that. Or if, often I'll redirect them to, maybe they're looking for a different attorney, or one last week, grandma, actually, no, it wasn't grandma. It was an elderly mother, but son called me and said, we've got, mom has dementia, went into
the cell phone carrier.
Into the cell phone carrier and came out with a tablet, internet for her home, an upgraded phone plan, just a laundry list of services that she's never going to use or need, but now can't get out of those contracts. And the cell phone carrier is telling them, no, you've signed up for an 18-month contract, even though this lady has no capacity to make a contract. So
she did visit a cell phone store and
physical store
and did get herself opted into some agreements that she wasn't in the right mind to make, is what it sounds like.
Yeah, probably had zero capacity to
So her son is reaching out to you and saying, help, please.
And my initial thought was, oh, you know what? There are other agencies that specialize in this. So I sent him to the area Agency on Aging, AAA. I think that's how they say it.
Okay.
Idaho has some great elder abuse type programs, right? So they're probably more equipped to handle that, but he's not going to know that. So, sometimes in that 15 minutes, it's just about pointing you to the right solution, even if it's not.
Well, here we are back to you staying in your lane again, right? As far as, this is my sweet spot. This is what I do well. This is my competitive advantage. And helping somebody is never outside of your competitive advantage, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be the one that actually does the work for them, and that they may not be your client, right? Yeah. When it's all said and done.
And I love these 15-minute phone calls. And I did this I don't know if we have, I'm not involved with one that, a program here, but in Southern Utah, we had Talk to a Lawyer nights. Oh. So I volunteered like every Thursday or whatever it was to go for a 2-hour block. And it's just 15-minute appointments after 15-minute appointments of like, we don't know where to go. Let's see if this is the right, but it's part of the pro bono program, right? So you
went on site somewhere and people would come to you.
Went to the legal aid building. People would come in, have a 15-minute conversation. And then it was just about, okay, is there a case? Is there something worth referring to somebody else? Or is this something legal aid should pick up or whatever? But just a myriad of problems, just, I have a lot of fun in that sort of get tossed into a problem and see if we can come up with a solution, right?
Not to make a huge pivot here, but there might be an opportunity for you to become a content creator. And I don't know what the legality is of this or the limitations you would have from being in law, but that would be interesting if you did like a YouTube live where you just fielded people's questions. Now, it wouldn't be very private for them, right?
No, it's not. There is on Instagram, I follow a guy that does that. It's and he'll set up shop on like a walking path with just a sign. It's just him and his dog standing there. Have you seen this?
No.
And I don't know what he calls it, but it's essentially the sign's like, talk to a lawyer, ask a question, ask a legal question. But you're right. There's some other concerns there.
And privacy or whatever.
But if somebody waives that, and it is fun, it's interesting.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're in a unique, call it career path that a lot of folks wouldn't find themselves with access to ask an attorney a question, right? They wouldn't necessarily know what to do.
Yeah. And there's a gap. There's a legal access gap where you've got pro bono programs available for, but they're income eligible. And
right.
Those income limits are very low. And then there's this gap of where you don't feel like you've got the discretionary income to put towards that.
Right. But you're not eligible for pro bono.
But you're not eligible for pro bono.
Yeah.
But that sort of lower middle income gap has a really, we call it access to justice. There's an access to justice kind of problem. Yeah. Right.
That's good. Yeah.
So in my own little way, 15-minute phone calls. If somebody's coming to me in a different capacity, say if it's someone that you've already had a conversation with, and you know a little bit about what I do, and you can make that introduction, I just jump into a full, hey, if Gavin thought you needed an estate plan, you've already had that. We'll just jump into a full, the sort of next level up meeting, which I call my legacy planning session.
Yeah.
Which is also no charge. It's also
what a guy.
For an hour, right? We're going to go through it and we're going to really dive in and say, okay, here are your options, starting with do nothing.
Yeah.
And going to write your own will by hand, which is an option. Or
sure.
Go to LegalZoom or whatever, or have me write a will for you, or have me write a trust for you, or maybe a more advanced trust for you. We're going to go through all of those options, and then you decide kind of what works for you and what makes sense. And if I did my pitch well enough.
Well, you're the pitch man. Super warm welcome. And I mean, I would say not at all intimidating, right? For somebody that's maybe never spoken to an attorney or never taken action on a conviction that they felt like they should do something about, right? So I can't plug you enough. If you're an Idaho consumer, come talk to Jordan, or Utah for that matter.
Remotely. Yeah. Still keep that one available. Yeah.
So Idaho resident, Utah resident, Jordan might be your guy. He's going to give you a free 15-minute consult as well as a free legacy
planning session.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's huge. So we're going to certainly include your information below so that folks can reach out and get in touch with you. We'd love for this to help provide for you opportunities to help more people, and especially folks that need your services. So
that's great.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Would love to hear a little bit more about your family.
Yeah. So been married to my beautiful, out of my league wife for going on, this will be our 18th year. So
nice. So 2007.
Yeah. Hey, good quick math.
We got married in 2008. So
okay, that's nice. Yeah, 2007, right over winter break. So
really,
yeah, like a week after finals, I think it was.
Winter wedding.
A winter wedding, yeah.
But it was in St. George?
Yes.
So probably was pleasant weather.
Pleasant weather. The trees are all dead in our pictures. Oh. Not dead, but dormant.
Maybe like artistically dormant?
They are artistically dormant.
See, I don't know what that look is, but I'm just going
to. So yeah, a winter wedding. And it was like take finals, which is in Logan, Utah.
Yep.
So drive down to St. George.
Winter climate still.
Winter climate. Drive down to St. George, and got married on like a Friday, and then had our honeymoon, and then back up to school. Well, I guess we would have had a some amount of winter break. But
yeah, that was one of the benefits of being a college student is your breaks were long. I felt like, especially winter break. I feel like it was a month long.
Yeah, law school takes it even further, and it's like,
sweet.
It's insane how much time you have off during that winter time.
Nice. Yeah. That's awesome. So you guys live here in the Treasure Valley, been married almost 18 years, or you just completed?
We're headed towards 18.
So it's like that weird thing when you ask somebody that they're about to turn 40, they're not 40 yet, but then you tell them, hey, you're actually in your 40th year. And they're like, what are you talking about? I'm not 40 until, wait.
We're like at 17.4.
Yeah. So you're going to complete your 18th year this coming winter.
Yep. We've got 4 kids, 2 kids born. Actually, both kids born kind of in that, or both of the first 2 born in that law school time frame. Our first son was due the week after law school started.
Okay.
Ended up being born 2 days before law school started.
Ooh.
Something like that.
Your paternity leave was minimal.
To non-existent.
2 days worth.
Yeah. Maybe it was more. I think it was 2 days, and then we started that orientation week, and then we started classes.
Yeah.
Which, just a whirlwind of a lot of stuff going on.
Were you guys already in Vegas at that point in time?
No.
Oh.
No, we weren't.
That even further complicates it.
That's a good point. Maybe it was 2 days until we moved. It was somewhere very close. He was born. Yeah. We had about whatever it was, a week before school started. So there was that move in between. Super crazy time. And to show up at the first day of like actual class, law school, and to have several classes, be like, just dive right into it. Like I was blown away. It was like, oh, there's already 70 pages I should have read that I have not even opened that book.
Not a slow ramp.
It's not a slow ramp. It is like there's an expectation that you are prepared to answer questions on day one that I was not.
It's crazy. Would you call it a master's level program, law school, or is it?
It's a doctorate,
correct?
But you skip over the master's. So it's a professional doctorate.
My wife is getting her master's right now, and it's nuts. She'll start a new class, and I never went to graduate school, but she'll start a new class, and it's just immediate go. Yeah, a little different pace than
it is a
undergrad.
Crazy pace.
A lot different pace than high school.
Socially, it's a lot more like high school. Just drama and crazy, weird. A lot of relationships formed during law school. A lot of gossip and cliques and whatever. So much different than undergrad, where you're like
weird.
Anyway, that's funny.
You just gave us a little peek inside the
way more like high
school. A subculture that most of us will never experience, which is law school.
Yeah. So and then second son was born, I think in between the second and third year. So kind of in that move. He was born in Henderson, Nevada, but then we pretty quickly moved back to St. George.
Okay. And that was the commuting season.
And
then 2 more kids.
And then 2 more kids after that. Shortly after practice, after I started, I don't know, I guess it's a couple years. So 2015, we had our 3rd kid. He was all of my kids are boys. So when I say kid, it just means they're
4 boys.
4 boys. He is our heart surgery baby. So he was, we kind of got a surprise. They didn't catch it on the early ultrasounds. So he had some heart deformations, I guess, so this is like Thanksgiving, the 2 days before Thanksgiving, we're about to head up and go with family. And we're like, we can get one more ultrasound because we're getting close. We want to make sure that everything's good. If we're going to travel before we leave town, we make sure everything's good. In that ultrasound, they start bringing in specialists, and this quick ultrasound turns into like a 3-hour ultrasound.
Oh gosh.
And they bring in their, I don't know what position he holds at the hospital, but sort of like chief bearer of bad news.
Oof.
To come in and say, we found these problems.
Yeah.
There's a chance that your son won't be born alive. There's a chance that he will be and will only live for 13 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
And the odds are not good. So we're going to fly you up to Salt Lake and you leave in 45 minutes. So I raced home.
And Whitney was how pregnant at this time?
So that would be, got to get my math right. She's like 34, 35 weeks.
Okay.
Is
So
that right? What's full term? 36.
like 36 is
so probably
when
he was born, I think, right at 36 and 1 day. So
this is still like 4
35.
weeks early then, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like that's 1 day shy of 4 weeks early. He was born.
So they wanted to get him out so that they could immediately go to work on him. Was that the thinking?
Was the thinking. I think the thinking was we are not equipped. So I guess the key piece of information is he is going to need surgery right when he's born.
Right.
We are not equipped to do that. We're going to fly you up there and you're going to deliver up there. So I ran home, packed a few things, got back to the hospital, and we get on, not a helicopter ride. It was like a 6-seater plane with me in the jump seat facing the back of this plane, and then 3 nurses and Whitney's laying there on the bench. And it was, she started having contractions on the flight, and this is through a storm that we're flying in November up to Salt Lake. And I'm just, sitting there getting sick, watching the back of the plane do this. She did not deliver. We got there, contractions stopped. It was a few more days that we kind of hung out up there, and he was born up there. And that was at University of Utah Hospital, and they quickly transfer him through this window in the delivery room to a tunnel that goes straight to Primary Children's Hospital, where he spent the next 30 days in the NICU and waited for surgery, and ended up having surgery at 10 days old, and kind of a wild experience during that time. Me and the other boy, well, Whitney was obviously there for the whole time,
right,
living up there, and I drove back and brought the kids up occasionally. That we would live in the Ronald McDonald House.
Oh yeah,
if you're familiar.
Yeah,
love the Ronald McDonald House. So we still, Whitney every year does a campaign for them and volunteers and collects donations. But that was a big part of our life for that season.
So third son has surgery, successful.
He just had his cardiologist appointment over the summer, and they said things are looking great. Don't come back to us for 4 or 5 years. So
awesome.
That's pretty good.
And he's almost 10.
He is almost 10.
Yeah. Oof. I have a son that was born in 2015, so that math was easy for me as well.
It's convenient.
Yeah. And then one more.
Then one more. Gap between the last two. He is 6. And it is so much different having kids when you're older. Like, I had my first kid when I was 25, I guess.
Yeah.
Versus 35.
So your older two are how old?
14, 12. So we have 14, 12, 14, 12, 9, turning 6.
Gosh, we have the exact same first 3. I've got 14, 12. And I'll go back to the funny story. My daughter, because she's 12, but she knows that she's in her 13th year, she'll be, well, I'm technically 13. Well, no, Avery, you're technically 12 in your 13. You're about to complete your 13th.
So this is where this math is going.
Yes, exactly.
This is an ongoing conversation that you're having.
All the time. Yes.
Yeah. So definitely a different upbringing because I'm in a later stage in life than I was when I was 25 and in law school. And now we have different problems, but those problems feel smaller, different challenges, but we're more comfortable, we're more stable. And is he spoiled? Yes. Yes, he is spoiled. He is terribly spoiled.
That's funny. He's not that much younger than your third.
But he's quite a bit younger than the 14-year-old.
Yeah, that's true.
So there's quite a gap between all of them, but they're fun. They have fun together. It's a loud house. We have a very loud house.
That's awesome. Thanks again for being here. I really appreciate you sharing your story with me and with us. And the whole point of this, like I said, was that we would honor you as just an awesome service provider in our community. And you're not just a service provider, you're a great person and a great human. And so you very much humanized the attorney space, at least for me personally. And you're a super easy referral for me to, when I have the opportunity to talk about this type of thing with my customers. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you.
Hey, it was fun. I hope we've got a few nuggets in there.
Oh, there's some good nuggets for sure. Absolutely.